all your work experience during the week, to start Monday afresh and be up and at it, rise and shine, just jump straight into it and promote, be right on the front foot. You call that Monday-itis. And then some people, the working week for a lot of companies, and a hell of a lot of companies, doesn't actually kick in until Tuesday afternoon or Wednesday. And why is that? Because, I mean, alcohol stays in your systems for 3 days, but so does the fucking weekend. Security and stability are two totally different things. And economy and ecology work perfectly in synchronism, but yet, like economy is the engine, the ecology is the interpreter or the operator. And like the ecosystem in the world, in every area of life, what do you actually do to invest in it, other than to play shadow defense strategies with a fieldwork recognition that hides in costume and shielded by a departmental concession? Everybody's sort of a low-budget gimmick surviving on a departmental concession. Do for your country what your country can't do for you. And you people can't even handle a dispute in your proprietary with a client or a customer in the public, a walk-in customer. You rip them off. You might just want that client or that walk-in customer just wants the $1 or the $2 back that your broken infrastructure like pokie machines just kept ticking over because the buttons were stuck, and they were literally stuck right before, right? You have a disagreement over a waged policy, the policy of the responsibility to the gambler. Do you think it's the fucking person or the machine that's gambling the public trust? Then the fucking the manager, the supervisor, the shift manager, or the duty manager, or the proprietary owner rings the police and charges the state treasury for a police call out, like any emergency personnel vehicle, charges $900 or $1,100 call out. They would rather charge the state federacy, the federal funds of the State Department or the state treasury, a $900 emergency service call out, rather than just do good business and upkeep good business. Life isn't about being behind the 8 ball. It's about being ahead of time and money. Do for your country what your country can't do for you, and not even the goddamn boys in blue will send out a bill to those freaking proprietors. They don't even do it when children are found dead on the beach at Benalla. They'll go recover the surfboard, but they won't recover their child swallowed up by a monster on the beach. And it isn't Cronulla at Benalla. You know, don't you think that an ambulance is a really fucking sad taxi? An ambulance is a sad taxi, but if all the fucking service personnel, the emergency personnel, have to drag the remains of your child dead in the water, and you want to get on TV and splutter, absolutely splutter your sympathy and your shock and loss and grievance about your child at 17 years old. I mean, at what stage does the emergency personnel not send your family a whopping bill? Not to mention deducting the psychological damage to emergency personnel that have to see that sort of stuff. Like, is it an ambulance a sad taxi? Then how much worse? You're not going to send a bill out to that family on top of that? Yeah. Oh no, just alright, just blah blah blah. You've lost enough. What the hell? You've lost enough. You probably weren't the one that had to fucking recover the child of the fucking surfboard. You're just the family learning the news. Being educated, are you? When we all see it, you don't get through. Not even the parameters of the country. It's not getting through education. You can recover that surfboard. Somebody just happy to recover the surfboard. Is that a memento? So that it never happens again. Do for your country what your country can't do for you. Is anyone sick and tired of seeing fucking people dying in the water? Fucking shark attacks? And it doesn't get through? You're right. Just go and die for what you love doing. She died doing what she loved. That's not love. If you think as a family she died what she loved and the media were too busy telling the whole world she died what she loved, right? Then you're fools. You don't know what love is. If you knew what love is, you'd be having dinner with your 7-year-old child right now. Love is doing things that you would rather not do, having everybody else in mind. Love is doing things for others when you have need yourself. That's what it's like when you're up for the fight of your life. Even in combat, like physical martial arts combat. If you care more about your opponent and think about them rather than yourself, you might live longer. Does that make sense? Martial science or defense only. If you only think about your opponent and not yourself, you'll live longer. You'll probably live longer. Even in backlash, backlog, and every goddamn security measure in opposed to the stability that all summarizes itself in the way in which we take it seriously and start being less apathetic or sympathetic and literally on the front foot, nailing it and getting it right, like the measure and quote. If you do, there's consequences that erupt or arise as a result. Walk green grass, walk on the other side. Wet paint, do not touch. Don't cowabunga in the beach or get fucking smashed by a monster. Don't put your foot down a bit too fast or a bit too hard. You might have a micro sleep at the wheel and exceed a stupid goddamn limit. 100-kilometer limit, and you exceeded it and you wonder why. You get demerited. Because like education, demerit system, you idiot. You got demerited because you exceeded the fucking limit. It's called a limit. You want all your Christmases to come at once, even through apathetical and antithetical views and conversationalisms, conversion rates, a private interpretation. And rather than see the bright side of everything, wanting to retain the bright side of even a shiny day and your friends and family and commitment to life, you get too damn serious, tipple with freaking fire, cowabunga over a goddamn coffee edge like a fly, and you fall victim to limitations like drowning or breaking the speed limit. Anything like acceleration and adrenaline. So you should never exceed 95 kilometers an hour. It's called a limit, and it's not a hero to be 95. It's basically telling you. Like the 5 is the new freaking 41, or 14's the devil, whatever the hell. Right? It's a limit. Don't ever exceed the limit. You should never, ever, ever have an excuse not to retain your license. And you wonder why people have it stripped from them through demerit points, and overall it has a conception to the way in which we give birth to it. And the generation, like the acceleration, that tactically consummates that in which it puts its foot, one foot after the other. Like a foot, one after the other, left, right, left, right. Don't let your past, previous step, determine your future. Your past is a great indicator to the future. You are not a mistake. Your past is your future, even if it meant your toolbox, that you bought a toolbox, or that your ancestor, your grandfather gave you tools. 10 years ago, he died 10 years ago, or passed away. Passed away. And you even had to step behind yourself to the toolbox for 10 seconds just to get a hammer or a nail or a tool and go up to that piece of cabinetware in which you're knocking together, which provides economical strength. It's going to provide a product in which you can keep your occupational lifestyle at pace with your future, even when you step behind for 10 seconds to a toolbox that even you bought last week, 10 weeks ago. Your past is very much your future. And time is the greatest indicator, always. Anything that takes away the greater dependency on oneself, one step, one flesh, one breath, one outcome, you have to know your sanctification. You know the numbers that implode against people or class action. A lot of class actions actually wipe themselves out because they simply are too much of a bullies, and they're operating within a ventured scheme that was all a factionate gusto, big friggin' air of wind, big blah, 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 as if you didn't know. Do for your country what your country can't do for you. Or what it meant basically to take control of your own vessel. The will of God be it your sanctification. Well, I've just explained some of these goddamn pros and cons and tricks of the trade, which adults are more mischievous and more malignant in their way in which to live in this world. They're just advanced children with much more capacity to commit good and evil, or evil and good, and disassociate from the tree of life and just become tosspots, even corporate knob jockeys, or people just in private conversations and stirring private cauldrons of witchcraft and serpentry that uses people for flagpole concentration or flagpole conversations, narcissistic circles. The will of God is not two stiffs. The will of God is not the will of two stiffs. It's your sanctification. It's fortification, it's upkeep, it's positive reinforcement. Filtering out the bad, infiltrating the good. The symmetry of left to right in an individual is where it all starts. And when I say security and stability are two totally different things, let me leave you with this proverbial one-liner which I have wrote myself. The one that says, what is a gash without a scratch? Like a catch-22 situation. People say, oh, catch situation. Was it the egg or the chicken or the egg? Well, see, there's no bird without a nest. You have to have a nest before there's a bird. First is last, last is first. Or to lay down those foundations and build it upon those foundations. The nest provides a place in which birds can actually shit and piss and do everything in. And that the mother bird or the father bird can bring back food to sit in the nest too and feed their suckling young. That's like our bowel system. Like what it is to have a sump for breakfast and not pig and chicken for breakfast like bacon and eggs. Otherwise your nest will just be made out of dead pig and chicken carcasses. If you were having a continental breakfast like cigarettes and coffee, even you might smell the cigarettes. You probably only smell the cigarettes at any stage because that's shit. But it's not too bad. You didn't go the fucking step further and have dead live animals in your stomach. You had water. You kept in touch with your ancestry because of smoke, but you people say, where there's fire, where there's smoke, there's fire. That's just too damn typical of some people. What is a gash without a scratch? And people like intelligence hubs or network proprietary proprietary's limitations, can't identify for the life of them, they'll just sit there and scratch their head. Before you know it, they've got a big gash in their head during where opportunity knocks. Opportunity was knocking, you can't identify for the life of you, and your little scratch turns into a gash, and you start pissing and moaning and whining and whinging and complaining about that so-called gash and blame what was in front of your eyeballs and what you were hearing. Most vehemently, what's in front of your eyes. And like the proverb itself in the Bible, as a face is the reflection of water, so too is the heart the reflection of the true person. It's like being able to see a youthful person or the radiance of God in their face. Like they must have, and with the doctor's report that actually coincides with it. It's never mental, it's always a physical repetition. Physical health predominates mental health. It's not even a chemical reaction. It's just like you might call it a psychological chemistry, or what it is to keep at pace with psychological circles, or little chemistry tests, little cauldrons of witchcraft that you, like your environment is compromised by people that have something to say about someone. And of course they compromise their physical health, their physical space, their physical outlook. That social stresses and environmental stresses is the number one cause of all disorder. And like disorder and disorderly conduct, unlawful and disorderly. Disorderly people. Disorderly conduct. Unlawful and disorderly. It wouldn't be a sickness or an illness or a disease or a condition or a syndrome. It would just be a disorderly predicament. You want to turn episodes into goddamn events? You misappropriate the treatment of the individual that just requires greater steadfast treatment. It's all about treatment and how they're being treated. So therefore a disorder is not a syndrome, is it either? And even having said that, a disorder is not a syndrome. And why are these people being treated day in constantly? Wouldn't be in the head. We talk through the head. And security and stability are two totally different things. Don't talk about the driven department or the economy to keep it pace with its own service retention and practice allocation. You wouldn't be professing nothing, you're just practicing or keeping it pace with the economic funding or being asphyxiated. Turn the whole freaking thing into bedlam, especially in a person's right mind that's become the victim, and you go ahead and keep challenging the victim like you're trying to fix them rather than challenge the offenders and greater propel areas of higher scrutiny through the department. Because people are surviving on a departmental concession, and you people treat 21st century conservationism, 24/7 conservatism as a departmental concessionalism. You are treating your conservatism as concessionalism, and you very are much being kept up by your concessional lifestyle. People that work in the department and agencies and people funded with associate... Like I'm balancing it right? Balance? Trying to find a balance. I've got to build a balance. I've got to build a balance. I've got to find a balance. I need balance. You're living so much of a concessional lifestyle worse than welfare recipients. You have more of a concessional life than people on welfare. You in the department and all these other agencies, workplace incentives, anything, you live more of a concessional life than people on welfare. Security and stability are two totally different things. And like the ecosystem of the world, and finish it here, what's a gash without a scratch, or the problems of the world up until this point? We are born into a world without anything. We're born with nothing. The concept of life and how to retain it, in opposed to what? What do you leave behind when you pass away? Everything. Perfect answer. Security and stability are two totally different things. You're never going to honour the dead ahead of time, head of the dollar, money and time, unless you start honouring the living, which means you have to invest while you're here and not just stash it up. What's a gash without a scratch? A big hole that people fall into? That false sump that was made out of money that either melts or burns and the whole fucking collapsed society just falls into because of a few sick families and a few sick proprietaries? Two totally different features, but produce the same synchronized level of productivity and prospective gains, bargaining skills, recognition / capacity in every area in which we choose to maintain and upkeep. Real people live in a real world. They live for reality. And it's not ideal for them or the realists in the world, right? But fake people live in a fallacy. You live in a fallacy, which means you're in your tube, you're air-conned hell, and you're just growing wealth and not fairly distributing. You're treating people like defective vehicles and don't even have the capacity to call them back and to, when used, exploit, distribute. Security and stability are two totally different things. Experience all your work experience.